Hey everyone. Today we need to talk about something that just happened in Chicago, and the number buried in the latest budget proposal should make every single American homeowner sit up. So picture this. 1837, a swampy trading post on the south bank of the Chicago River incorporates as a city. Population 4,000. Within 50 years, it becomes the second largest metropolis in America, the home of steel, meatpacking, railroads, Wall Street's twin. The Sears Tower goes up in 1973, the tallest building on Earth. The city draws Boeing's headquarters in 2001, Caterpillar in 2017, Tyson Foods, United Airlines, Walgreens, Citadel, McDonald's, ADM. Every major American corporation plants a flag in Chicago because Chicago is supposed to be stable. Then, over the last 36 months, one by one, they pack up and leave. Boeing leaves for Arlington, Virginia. Caterpillar leaves for Texas. Tyson moves thousands of jobs to Arkansas. Citadel, the hedge fund that built half the new skyline, relocates to Miami. A DM gets gutted by accounting scandal. Walgreens gets sold to private equity. And in October 2024, the mayor of Chicago, a 49-year-old former teachers union organizer named Brandon Johnson, announced the largest property tax hike in 2 decades to plug a $1 billion budget hole. His name is Brandon Johnson. And the number you're about to hear is the one nobody at City Hall wants you to see. Now, you might be thinking, I don't live in Chicago. This doesn't touch me. Stay with me, because the exact same playbook running on Chicago right now is being prepped for Minneapolis, for Portland, for Baltimore. So hit that subscribe button because this one goes deep. Let's get into it. So here is what actually happened. October 30th, 2024, Mayor Brandon Johnson unveils his 2025 budget proposal at a press conference in City Hall. The headline number is $300 million. That's the property tax increase he's asking the city council to approve, the largest in 20 years, bigger than anything Lori Lightfoot proposed, bigger than anything Rahm Emanuel pushed through. And it lands 4 days after Moody's downgrades Chicago's credit outlook from stable to negative. The city council rejects the proposal in a 50-0 vote, not 50-1, not 30-20. 50-0. Even Johnson's closest progressive allies vote it down. He becomes the first Chicago mayor in living memory to have a budget rejected unanimously by his own council. And then, 2 weeks later, Johnson comes back with a smaller property tax hike, $68 million, and a series of one-time gimmicks to plug the rest of the gap. The council passes that one barely, and the city's structural deficit, the gap between what Chicago takes in and what it spends, stays at $1 billion for 2026. Before we go further, you need to understand who Brandon Johnson actually is, because this isn't a typical big city mayor with corporate connections. Johnson was born in Elgin, Illinois in 1976. One of 10 siblings, the son of a Pentecostal minister and a homemaker. He started his career as a Chicago public school social studies teacher. He spent 15 years as an organizer for the Chicago Teachers Union, the same union that has shut down the city's schools 3 separate times in the last decade. In 2018, he won a Cook County Commissioner seat. In 2023, with the Chicago Teachers Union spending nearly $3 million on his behalf, he beat former schools chief Paul Vallis in a runoff by a margin of 51.4 to 48.6%. He became the first Chicago mayor in 40 years elected without significant business community backing, and on his first day in office, the city's biggest employers were already packing. Because here is what nobody on local news wants to explain. Chicago's corporate exodus did not start with Brandon Johnson. It started years before he took office. Boeing announced its move from Chicago to Arlington, Virginia in May 2022, citing proximity to the Pentagon and federal regulators. Caterpillar moved its global headquarters from Deerfield, Illinois to Irving, Texas in June 2022. Citadel, the hedge fund founded by Ken Griffin, relocated from Chicago to Miami in June 2022. Griffin specifically cited rising crime and an anti-business political climate. Tyson Foods consolidated jobs from Chicago to Springdale, Arkansas in 2023. Walgreens Boots Alliance, headquartered in suburban Deerfield, collapsed in 2024 and was sold to private equity firm Sycamore Partners for $10 billion, a tenth of its peak value. Every single one of these companies left for the same reason. The math on running a Fortune 500 company in Illinois stopped working. Illinois has the second highest property tax rate in the entire United States. Cook County, where Chicago sits, has the highest corporate effective tax burden of any major American county. The state's pension liabilities, $211 billion and growing, translate directly into corporate tax pressure every single year. And in November 2024, Illinois voters approved a 3% millionaire tax referendum, the kind of policy that pushed Ken Griffin out in 2022, only this time it's now law. To understand what that does to a real person, step into the shoes of a Chicago homeowner in Lincoln Park. You and your spouse bought your three-bedroom brick walk-up in 2014 for $625,000. You've raised two kids in this house. Your property tax in 2014 was $9,200 a year. By 2020, it had risen to $13,500. By 2024, it was $17,800. Johnson's original $300 million proposal would have added another $1,200 to your bill next year. Even the watered down version that passed adds $400. And meanwhile, the elementary school 3 blocks from your house just lost 12 teachers because the Chicago Teachers Union struck for a third time in a decade and won a contract the city cannot afford. The CTA bus that used to run every 15 minutes now runs every 40. Your grocery store on Halsted Street closed in March because of an organized retail theft crisis the city has refused to prosecute. And your neighbors, half of them, are already in conversations with realtors about Tennessee, Texas, and Florida. Now, here is the number nobody at City Hall wants you to see: 87,000. That is how many residents Chicago has lost since 2020, according to the latest census estimates. The fourth consecutive year of population decline, the fastest of any major American city, and it gets worse. The city's downtown office vacancy rate is now 25.8%, the highest in modern history. 66 office buildings in the Loop are currently in financial distress. The Civic Federation, a nonpartisan budget watchdog, estimates Chicago's true structural deficit at $1.4 billion when you include the pension contributions the city keeps deferring. The migrant crisis has cost the city $530 million in 2 years, almost none of it reimbursed by Washington. Moody's, S&P, and Fitch have all downgraded the city's credit outlook in the last 12 months. Chicago now pays a higher interest rate on its bonds than the city of Detroit did before its bankruptcy filing in 2013, and the man in charge is doubling down. After the city council rejected his $300 million property tax hike, Brandon Johnson held a press conference in November 2024 and called the rejection, in his own words, an act of cowardice. He has refused to consider layoffs of any city workers represented by his former union, the CTU. He has rejected calls from his own progressive caucus to negotiate a smaller police contract. He has not produced a structural plan to close the $1 billion deficit for 2026. And as of this recording, Johnson's approval rating in Chicago sits at 14%, lower than any mayor in the city's modern history, lower than Lori Lightfoot at her worst, lower than Rahm Emanuel after the Laquan McDonald cover-up scandal. The same Chicago Teachers Union that spent $3 million electing him is now publicly demanding the city find money for raises it cannot afford. And in Springfield, Governor JB Pritzker has publicly refused to bail Chicago out with state funds. And here is where both sides failed the regular family. The corporate giants who built Chicago, Boeing, Caterpillar, Citadel, Tyson, walked away with their stock prices intact and their headquarters in lower tax states. The unions that elected Johnson keep negotiating contracts the city cannot afford. The progressive activists who pushed for the millionaire tax in 2024 don't pay property taxes on the houses they don't own. And the Lincoln Park homeowner with two kids in public school ends up with a $400 tax hike, a worse staffed school, less frequent buses, a closed grocery store, and a phone number for a Tennessee realtor saved in her phone. And Chicago is not alone. Minneapolis is losing residents at the fastest rate since 1950 after years of progressive mayoralty. Portland's downtown is functionally empty. Baltimore is closing 8 schools. St. Louis just elected a mayor on the same platform Brandon Johnson ran on. Same playbook, same political pitch, same fiscal death spiral, and every American homeowner in every blue state city is watching, calculating, and quietly running the math on relocation. So let's bring it full circle. We start in 1837 with a swampy trading post on the Chicago River becoming the second largest city in America in 50 years. The home of Boeing, Caterpillar, Tyson, Walgreens, McDonald's, United Airlines, ADM, Citadel, Sears, every name that built American industry, the Sears Tower piercing the sky in 1973, then 36 months of corporate exits, every major employer either gone, threatening to leave, or being broken up by Wall Street. Then a 49-year-old former teachers union organizer wins City Hall by a 51% margin, inherits a city already bleeding businesses, and responds by proposing the largest property tax hike in 2 decades. The council rejects him unanimously. His approval rating collapses to 14%, and every Chicago homeowner watches the math, watches the schools, watches the buses, watches the moving trucks, and makes a quiet decision about whether 2027 is the year they leave. Here's the bottom line. When the people who run a city stop building it for the people who pay the people who pay the taxes leave every single time. Boeing left, Caterpillar left, Citadel left, Tyson left, Walgreens collapsed, and now the working families who held the city together are calculating their own exit. Brandon Johnson did not start Chicago's decline, he just accelerated it. And the people writing the next chapter of the city's history will not be the politicians at City Hall. They will be the U-Haul trucks heading south on I-65. So I want to hear from you in the comments. If you live in Chicago, are you thinking about leaving? If you've already left, what was the moment you knew? And if you live in another blue state city, do you see the same playbook running on you? Let's talk about it down below. If this video opened your eyes, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. Stay informed, stay engaged, and never stop asking who really pays the bills. I'll see you in the next one.